On this channel, we've covered hundreds of free VR games over the years, so it's time to round up the best of the best. Here's the top 50 free VR games of all time. All the links for these are in the video description below, and we have a lot to cover, so let's get started right away with some action games. Trickster VR Horde Attack is a small wave shooter sample of the larger game Trickster VR. But even though this is just a small wave shooter example of a larger game, it's one of the most highly polished wave shooters I've ever seen. It's obviously based within a fantasy setting, and in between waves you can choose different weapons or equipment.
Beautiful.
This game features both sliding movement and teleporting movement. It's your choice.
Up there, a skyship.
This game looks and sounds fantastic. If you're tired of the usual sci-fi themed wave shooter we keep seeing over and over again, then I definitely recommend giving this one a shot.
That's right, get in the zone. Hey, I need some help over here.
Wolfenstein 3D VR. It's the original Wolfenstein 3D ported to VR in pretty much a perfect way. It keeps all of the nostalgia for the original, complete with all the sounds, music, and flat 2D enemies, but also has a few new surprises like opening doors with your hands, and enhanced blood effects on the ceiling and floor. It features both sliding movement and teleporting movement. If you enjoyed the original game, then this is a must play. It's super fun. MSI Electric City Core Assault is a straightforward, city defense bullet hell shooter. Alien ships are arriving through green portals, and you need to fend them off as best you can. The ship you control stays with your hand, so it's like you're holding a small toy ship that can fire lasers and missiles. It's almost like the classic Missile Command arcade game on steroids. It's a great casual action game. Compound Demo is a totally original shooter in a retro style. There's multiple weapons to find, a fun reloading system, and you heal yourself by eating burgers. Each level is cleared after you've cleared all the enemies. The demo version is obviously more limited than the full game, but there's still lots of challenging action in the demo. Drive-Through Explosions delivers on its promise. In a graphically simple post-apocalyptic wasteland, you have objectives to complete and cars to destroy. You're pretty much always driving forward unless you press left trigger, which will slow you down to a stop. Your right trigger fires your gun. Complete your objectives and eliminate all the enemies. I have to admit there's some real excitement to be found in here. I found the action pretty fun. But I will say if you're prone to motion sickness, you might want to stay away from this one. Guns and Stories Preface VR. This is a wave shooter within a Wild West theme.
Double kill.
The game begins with an animated comic book style narration, but you can skip that if you want to. The game has you standing in one place, with waves of riffraff trying to take you down. One unique element in this is the ability to deflect incoming bullets with your pistols. I find that pretty fun. This game also has a nice visual design. All the characters and environment feel like they could be in a Pixar movie. It's great looking, casual fun. And now moving on to some multiplayer games. I probably don't need to mention VR Chat, you've almost certainly played this before, but I would be remiss to not include it on this list. If by chance you haven't played it before, it's basically all about hanging out in virtual worlds with other folks and chatting. There are some mini games you can play, but it's really all about mingling with others. It boasts an impressive player base, since VR isn't required, so if you want to hang out with others in the virtual world, then this will certainly fit the bill.
Do you agree this game gets weirder and weirder?
Wave Beta is your techno-rave music festival dreams come true. You can be a DJ and freely explore musical worlds. But perhaps best of all, there are the music experiences, both live and pre-recorded, where you can gather with others to witness beautiful visualizations accompanied with music. Whenever I return here, it's always a pleasant time and a fun escape. And of course, I need to mention Rec Room. If VR chat is the king of hanging out, then Rec Room is the king of minigames, like paintball, frisbee golf, laser tag, and much more. My personal favorite are the co-op quests. Team up with up to 3 other people to make it through miniature combat campaigns with various themes like medieval fantasy or pirate quests. Rec Room is massive and it's getting bigger all the time, and the fact that it's free is amazing. A Township Tale. It's a free online multiplayer RPG that's in a pre-alpha state. And since this game is in pre-alpha, there's still plenty of bugs to iron out, so you'll probably see some lag in my game footage, but it was still quite playable. When I first fired it up, I have to admit I was a little daunted by the learning curve. But I was really fortunate because right away I ran into an incredibly helpful individual that showed me step by step how to do some carpentry and blacksmithing.
Now when you put it onto the thing, you want to kind of hold it above like this, like about at this height, and then you want to start hitting it.
Okay.
This is the kind of blade that you're getting, by the way. It'll look a little bit like this.
Cool. And one of the elements of the game that stood out to me the most is that the carpentry and blacksmithing use the motion controllers really well. When you're chipping away at carpentry, it actually matters where you're chipping and with how much force. In addition to those professions, there's also mining, cooking, farming, and more. And since I spent the first day crafting my weapons, I haven't even begun the combat yet. There is so much to experience, see, and explore in this game. I'm incredibly excited to see this game continue to develop, because so far, it's already a fun experience and it's only pre-alpha. So if it continues development to the very end, it could be something truly spectacular. Definitely try A Township Tale. That's just done by hand right here?
Yeah, right here.
Alright, excellent.
Make sure. Oh yeah, it's fully made.
We did it! Excellent. Thank you. PokerStarsVR is a high-end social poker game. I'm sure that you've played poker before, so I won't go over that. What really impressed me is the level of polish and everything inside the game. For example, in the environments there's quality character animation happening in the background, with great graphics and ambience. At the game table itself, there are many props you can summon, like selfie cams and smoking pipes. This kind gentleman gave me a free pipe and smoke during my first game. Thank you.
No problem.
There's no other card game like it right now. If you're a poker fan, then I highly recommend it. War Thunder is a free VR game that requires either a gamepad or keyboard and mouse. It's a World War II combat game that lets you take control of a plane or a tank. It's multiplayer, but there are always people playing online as it doesn't require VR. It's easy to pick up and start playing, but if you're really into it, there's more to explore, like unlockables and customized game modes. One thing that I found annoying is that in VR the menus are massive. It's like looking at an IMAX screen, and you have to look absolutely everywhere to figure out the menu. But that aside, I was impressed with the game, especially for a free game. Next up, strategy games. Lazerbait is a planetary conquest strategy game. You start with your army of ships orbiting one planet. You then take over all the nearby neutral planets to produce more ships, and eventually face off against the enemy AI players. There are also many options for you to customize, like number of enemies, map size, difficulty, and more. This game is very fun, a must-play for any strategy fan.
Welcome to the team at any rate. Kick back for now.
The Red Stare. You are a secret agent in the 1950s, and it's up to you to spy on the building across your window and figure out who the communist spies are. You receive information via your phone and fax machine, finding clues in case files, and taking pictures that you can fax to your boss. It's all about observation and deduction. It can be a real brain teaser at times. This game uses motion controllers very well. After taking pictures, you can arrange them on the chalkboard and write down notes to help you deduce who the spies are. It's a challenging and very well-made spy game.
This is a picture of the guy in the parking lot, isn't it? It's likely he ran off with the briefcase.
The Get-Up puts you in the role of a god in ancient Egypt, and you need to ensure that pyramid construction keeps chugging along. It's a multitasking challenge that requires quick thinking and reflexes. You want to get as many stones pushed uphill as possible, and the workers can only push stones on top of logs. So you need to get more logs from trees or move logs to the front of the line. And if there are too many stones for the number of workers you have, they'll get crushed. Later, you'll have to deal with hot rocks, and you'll need to find jars of water to cool down the rocks. Everything is highly polished in this game, and I found the gameplay quite addicting. The Last Day Defense was once a paid game, but now it's free to download on Viveport and Oculus stores. You certainly know what's involved in these kinds of games. Waves of enemy forces are moving along a path, or sometimes multiple paths, and you need to build defense turrets to stop their progress. Out of all the tower defense games I've tried in VR, this is one of the best. The visuals and sound design are highly polished, and even though you can only place turrets at certain preset locations, there's a large variety of upgrade options for any weapon you pick. So between all of the weapon types and the possible upgrade options for each, there's a lot to decide that will affect your strategy. If you love tower defense games, then it's a must download. In Your Face TD is another tower defense game, but this has the unique spin of also being a first-person shooter. During the waves, when enemies are marching forward, you can reposition wherever you are and personally take fire at the robots or throw bombs at them. It's also fun to teleport on top of the towers that you've built for a new perspective. This mix of tower defense and first-person shooter is a really interesting mix. I highly recommend you check it out.
Now, let's get ready to rock and roll!
In Vroom Kaboom, it's 2 vs 2 Mad Max-style demolition derby combat, where you want to take down the structures of the other team. If you play single player, then the game will fill in with bots. Press left trigger to bring up your menu of cards, and then select a card and place it on the road to summon that vehicle. Steer the vehicle with the trigger and try to pick up power-ups as you drive toward the enemy base. Pressing the thumb pad will activate the special power of the vehicle, like jumping high or firing a weapon. The team that demolishes all of the structures of the other team win the game.
Focus!
I found it all pretty exciting and really well put together. It's an interesting mix of demolition combat and strategy. I was surprised by how much I got into this. Servator is a VR remake of the classic game The Sentinel, which was available on DOS and Amiga systems way back in the day. It's a strategy puzzle game. You start at the bottom of a landscape, and the Servator is at the top of the landscape. The goal is to build enough boulders to stand on so you are above the Servator. But to do that, you'll need energy. You harvest energy from crystals. Once you have enough energy, you can create robots for you to teleport to. So after you have enough energy, get to the top of the level, build some boulders, and then stand on top of the boulders to be above the Servator. The graphics and audio design are all very well done. It has a great retro feel, it's like you're playing a Tron game. The game page says there's 10,000 levels to play in, so if you're a fan of the original, or this looks appealing to you, you could find a ton of gameplay in here. And now, some free adventure games. The Ranger Lost Tribe is a hack-and-slash fantasy adventure with some stealth elements. Proceed through a creepy world with giant lizard-like monsters living everywhere. Take them all down using a variety of weaponry like a trusty sword and shield, spears, arrows, etc. It features a stealth assassination mechanic. If you're able to teleport behind an enemy, it'll show you an assassination prompt so you know you can soar behind them for a quick kill. The first time I played this, it was mostly the same type of enemy everywhere, but they've added more enemy variety since then, including some spider-like creatures. I hate spiders in VR, but if they don't bother you, then definitely try this. Acan's Call is a short but fun combat RPG. Explore a spooky cave while finding diamonds and keys to open treasure. You fight off evil skeletons along the way, and it all ends in a giant climactic sword battle. You'll beat it in about 8 minutes if you take your time, but for a free sword game, it's very good. Spellbender is a short RPG where you play a mage in training who learns their first spell. And of course, evil forces show up, so you need to fight them. For a free RPG, I was impressed with the graphics and how much there was to do in here. Now granted, it is short at 12 minutes, but previous to this, I was used to Acan's Call, which was even shorter than this one. The spell you learn is basically a Hadouken spell, and it's very tricky to aim, so most of the time I would just move up close to enemies to fire at them at point-blank range. Besides the combat, there's also some item hunting and exploring as well.
Take the crystal and gather your backpack, some food, a map, and keys to the mansion.
So of course it is short, but for a free VR RPG, I was all around impressed. Spider-Man Far From Home VR is basically a short arcade game, but I found it pretty darn fun, especially because you have so many Spidey abilities. Besides the obvious running and climbing up or down walls, you're able to swing very quickly through the city, which is really the best part of the game. And thankfully, there are comfort options if you're prone to motion sickness. The goal is to stop a giant robot from causing mayhem. To do that, you'll have to use your other web abilities, like bring your hands together to create a wall to slow them down, or fire your web slingers very quickly so that they act like bullets. You can beat the main action campaign in about 20 minutes, but there's also a free play mode, where you can just swing around in the city and find collectibles. For a free game, it's fantastic.
Or maybe you want something more cosmic and abstract. The decision is yours. Place your choice in the fire.
Cartoon Network Journeys VR is a narrative set of 3 unique mini-adventures. In one, you help a bee colony.
Don't even think about entering the construction area. It's dangerous.
In the second one, you're auditioning to become a jester in the king's court. This one is my personal favorite.
Is that Jester a wizard?
And the third one has you replacing a powerful deity at their job.
Look at this fool. He could have been a great dimension wizard, but his soul is trapped by things he possessed on the lower Dink plane.
The only mode of movement is teleporting, so everyone is able to play. All the mini-adventures are well written and designed.
Only unique individuals may pass. We're unique, right?
Each individual journey could be a great free game on their own, but the fact that all 3 come in one bundle makes it even better. I got an hour total of playtime out of this, and it's well worth the download.
So you think you can jest? Well, let's step things up and see who's still laughing.
Time to cover some free and fun puzzle games. Gravity Architect is a puzzle challenge that's all about gravitational forces. A path of cubes are moving in space, and you need to create and arrange planets to manage the gravitational pull, so the path reaches the goal. One of the most fun parts is sculpting away at a planet you've created to reduce its mass, and therefore its gravitational strength. There's 3 difficulty modes. The harder the difficulty, the smaller the target you're trying to reach. Don't let the simple graphics fool you. This game is addicting and surprisingly fun. FlickBlocks is a Tetris game with a few new tricks up its sleeve for VR play. In the center of your room is the main area of shapes, and all around you, Tetris pieces are falling down. Reach out and grab the pieces so you can place them in the main area, similar to normal Tetris. If a piece falls to the ground, it provides a colored highlight on the ground so you can easily spot it. If more than 3 pieces fall onto the ground, then you lose. It's a simple, elegant, and creative spin on Tetris for room scale VR. Spearmint 1 has you manning a missile launch facility. You'll want to press the button that lets you silence the alarm right away, because that gets really annoying. After powering on the radio, you need to listen to their instructions very carefully to figure out which piece of paper you need to guide you through the missile launch process.
Yankee, Zulu, verification code, 109er.
It kind of feels like a complex, small escape room game. I found this pretty overwhelming and difficult. But if you enjoy complicated instructions and escape room games, this could be right up your alley. In Albina, you're a dog being sent into space, but the people that sent you have no intention of bringing you back, so you need to find a way to escape from the spacecraft as soon as you can. The end goal is to get the parachute out, but that's obviously easier said than done. While you're trying to figure that out, other disasters are happening around you, like losing cabin pressure, losing oxygen, power going out, etc. So you need to manage all these little disasters while you're trying to figure out how to get to the parachute. It's a well-made and frantic puzzle survival game. Architect is a puzzle game where there's a tiny silhouette claymation character needing to reach the end goal to every level. But the poor little guy has no idea where to go, so you need to guide the character by placing certain golden objects in correct places so the little character knows where to go. Anything that's golden you can move or manipulate, like moving doors, stairways, elevators, etc. It's a simple premise, but you will find this challenging as you have to search a lot to find the correct objects to put in place. It's visually beautiful with great sound design and music. I highly recommend it. Here's some games that will really get you moving. Obstacle course games. Cube Dancer is a dance-off between you and 3 different AI robot personalities. The robots will send challenge cubes your way, either from their hands or their head, and you need to touch those cubes in response. This game is merciless, requiring quick thinking and very large, sweeping movements. It's a serious challenge, and for a free game I found it surprisingly polished as well. If you have a large room scale and enjoy rhythm games, it's a must play. T for God is part obstacle course and part exploration shooting game. It uses impossible spaces and procedurally generated level layouts to allow infinite movement within your room scale. Make your way through the level shooting a variety of robots before they can shoot you. After killing robots, you want to collect their energy. Energy is what you use for ammunition in your weapons and your shields. In the options, I like to disable the crouching, because the crawling sections really aren't my cup of tea. Walking through the levels is super fun. The pathways are designed really well, and after a while, your brain almost believes that you actually are traveling through many different spaces. I find this game surprisingly polished for how early it is in development. There's so much more planned for the game, but it's already fantastic fun. And since everything is procedurally generated, the gameplay is potentially endless. Now it's time to cover some asymmetrical multiplayer games, where others can play with you on the same PC. Nova Swarm is a space battle game with 1 player in VR and up to 4 people playing on the PC using gamepads. You can also fill in with AI bots instead of other players. It's pretty straightforward. The VR player has the main ship in the middle of the arena, and the 4 other players are trying to destroy the VR player. The PC player ships are invisible unless they're attacking. There's actually a lot beneath the surface of this game. Multiple weapons, power-ups, defense modes, and rules. All of the detailed info is available at the game's website below. This is a fantastic game for a group of friends at your next VR party. HangoVR is a fast-paced collaborative party game. You wake up at your friend's place after a crazy party and it's a huge mess. Unfortunately, your friend's parents are coming home in a few minutes, so all of you have to work together to fix the place. The VR player is responsible for cleaning everything up, while 1 or more people on the PC look at photos of the room that show where everything should go. It's a short game, but really creative and fun. I think this would really thrive at a VR party, where people keep taking turns at cleaning up the room. Acan Gun can be played as a single-player game or as an asymmetrical multiplayer game. It's a shooting game that pits you against evil gun turrets. You're armed with a single gun that feels quite realistic. The gun turrets show no mercy and kill you very quickly. So you need to be extra aware and sneaky if you hope to survive. It's very challenging and surprisingly addicting. The asynchronous multiplayer allows a team of 2, where 1 person plays in VR and another playing on the PC with keyboard and mouse. Team up against the evil bots, or just shoot each other. Either way. Nemesis Perspective is a frantic David vs. Goliath game. The VR player is a giant monster, and the second player on the PC using a gamepad is a tiny person. The monster VR player is trying to slap, squish, and kill the tiny player. But the tiny player is fast and has superpowers. Now let's move on to some relaxing games. In Aircar, you get to pilot a flying car through a futuristic cityscape. There are very simple goals to aim for if you want something to do, like finding secret landing pads, but it's pretty much just a free-flying Zen experience. And for a Zen flying experience, it's exceptional, because the visuals are very good looking and the audio soundscape is incredibly beautiful. Even though you'll wish there was more to do, it's still a mesmerizing experience. Puppy Chef Academy was once a paid game, but now it's free. It's a cooking game with a ton of role-playing story. You're a newcomer to a cooking school, and you're trying to fit in. You become friends with another student, and also try to excel at the cooking curriculum. This game is an interesting mix, because I initially expected it to be mostly cooking with a little bit of story, but it's actually the other way around. I found the vast majority of the game to be role-playing storyline. In the story, there's plenty of humor and well-written dialogue. The cooking portions themselves are straightforward and easy to do. There's no measuring of ingredients. When you're pouring an ingredient, it automatically stops when it's done. But even though the cooking portions were relatively easy, I still enjoyed them. They're my favorite part of the game. Like I said before, this game is an interesting mix, and it's dominated by story scenes. I would call this a family-friendly visual novel with cooking elements sprinkled in. If that sounds like your cup of tea, then definitely check it out. Land of Amara is a farming simulator inspired by Stardew Valley. This game is normally only available through Patreon, but the developer has released an early version of the game for free. The link to get it is in the video description below, as always. Even though this is an early version of the game, there's still a lot you can do in here. There's plenty of harvesting, farming, shopping, caretaking, and more. If you enjoy Stardew Valley, then this could entertain you for many hours. I highly recommend it. Google Earth VR. To state the obvious, this allows you to view the entire Google Earth database in VR. The amount of freedom you'll feel inside this is really incredible, and zooming out to witness the curvature of the Earth is truly spellbinding. You owe it to yourself to experience this. There's nothing else like it. Cosmic Sugar is a zen, trippy, and beautiful interactive particle experience. On each of your hands, you can choose an interaction mode with how you play with the particles. This free version only allows 2 tools. If you want the rest of the tools, those are available through DLC. But there's still plenty of fun to be had in this free version. After you choose a tool, use the trigger button to apply that force, and the forces are pressure sensitive with the trigger button. This may look relatively simple in video footage, but playing this in VR is really special. I highly recommend you try this yourself. It's an absolutely perfect experience for newcomers, but it's also great to come back to again and again. It's a must-have in your library. Horizon Beyond is a fantastical airship flying adventure. Sail above the clouds in a beautiful journey where you'll meet all kinds of creatures and gorgeous environments. It's an overall relaxing experience, but there are a couple of sudden surprises. You sail forward by pulling down on the big ring on your right, but thankfully there's a hook you can use to keep moving forward continually. If some hungry birds give you company, you can do some fishing to feed them. It's unfortunately short. I beat it in about 15 minutes, but it's fantastic and beautiful. It requires a room scale of 3 meters by 2 meters, and if you have enough room, then it's a must play. And now some crafting games, where you create and assemble things with your hands. Order Up is a multitasking burger assembly speed challenge. Customers walk up to your little burger stand, they specify the burger they want, and you have to make the correct burger in the right temperature for all the customers. For a free burger crafting challenge, it's really fun and a great choice for VR newcomers as well. Waltz of the Wizard is one of the oldest games on this list, but it's a timeless classic. Combine various ingredients into the bowl in front of you to create magic spells and transform the world around you. Just try different ingredients to experiment and see what happens. There's also musical spells that, when played correctly, will transport you temporarily to other realms. If you enter the door on your left, you'll go through a dangerous maze, which has you combating deadly enemies with your magic. The maze is cool, but for me, the wizard home is the good stuff. It's a lot of fun to just freely play in this sandbox, seeing all the magical spells you can discover. The original version is free, and is still free, but there's now a deluxe version, which is $10 and has much more content. Short Circuit VR is an electronics lab simulator. Using a variety of components, you can build your own electronic circuits. There's optional challenges to complete, or just enjoy making whatever you want. And finally, a miscellaneous category for games that defy a single genre. Dire is an action-packed racing game. It's like if the Mad Max and Sin City movies had a baby. You're racing forward inside an apocalyptic wasteland and a vicious sandstorm is coming up behind you. But of course there are bad guys on your tail as well, so you need to keep going as fast as you can to avoid getting sucked up by the sandstorm, as well as trying to run the bad guys off the road. This game is so fresh and different from the rest on this list, but it's also incredibly challenging. And of course, I have to mention the lab. This is the original VR variety game made by Valve, and it still holds up to this day. Over 3 years since its release, and many of these games are still fun to play for me. It features the original Longbow game, which has been emulated many times by other games. Robot Repair is an interactive film starring the bots from Portal, and is one of the best things to show to VR newcomers. My personal favorite is the arcade shooter Cortex. If you haven't played the lab yet, you absolutely have to. You don't know what you're missing. Taphouse VR is an arcadey bartending simulator. Patrons come up to your bar asking for specific drinks poured in particular glasses. Some will even ask for mixed drinks in special proportions. The game features a telekinetic retrieval ability that allows you to point at a distant object and zing it to your hand, which is incredibly useful when things get hectic in the bar. This game is highly polished, a very well-made free game. I put Anyland in the miscellaneous category because it actually spans multiple game genres. But at its core, it's a powerful world builder where you can create your own custom places and even games. There's a ton of potential in here, and it goes from simple modeling and arranging to complex programming and custom gaming mechanics. But fortunately, there's all kinds of pre-built worlds for you to explore and enjoy. If you go into the world called The Underground, you'll find a well-made labyrinth and puzzle room. This area alone is better than many free games that I've played. There are also more robust miniature quest games for you to play. They're not as sophisticated as the quests in Rec Room, but anyone can make their own custom quests. Going into the quests area will show you all of the available quests created by other people. Some are simple scavenger hunts, but some are very impressive, and even feature tiny arcade games inside the quest itself. And of course, you can create your own custom quests, which could keep you busy for a very long time. So there's plenty to find here for the casual player, but if you want to dabble with in-VR game creation, then this is a goldmine of opportunity and fun. Castle Defender VR is a defense game with a creative mix of mechanics, the likes of which I haven't seen before. You're a giant protecting your castle in the middle of an island, and pirate ships are unloading soldiers all around you trying to storm your castle. You have 4 things that you can summon: knights, archers, healing potions, and bombs. All 4 of those things are replenished for free with a timer that you have to wait for. Once something is ready, you can grab it and toss it into the battlefield. So you're not controlling your units, because once you throw them in the battlefield they work on their own, but you do have to think about resource management and timing. The healing potion, when you throw it on the ground, will heal your soldiers within a small radius, and the bomb, when you throw it, will damage only enemies within a certain radius. As the waves of enemies progress more and more, you'll obviously be struggling to keep up, so if you need something quickly, you can buy more units with the coin you've earned. And thankfully, purchasing units doesn't interrupt the timer, so your free unit will still come when the time is right. The game features a fun and cartoony visual style, and the audio design is good as well. I found this both refreshing and fun, and I recommend it. Well, that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe. See ya!